Jankum Pog doesn't like getting jostled. Dal takes the captain quarters, and Murph pukes on Zero. Is that what that was? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
Today, we are joined by, what do you know, for the second week in a row, that rhymed, not on purpose, Bonnie Gordon, ladies and gentlemen, and Species of All Kind.
Well, funny thing, I'm still in the same Zoom link that you sent me last time. I really can't get out of this. I feel like I'm stuck here till you cancel the meeting. So thanks for having me back again, I guess. I haven't left.
So instead of saying welcome back, you should be telling us welcome back. Oh, you've been hanging out there for a week.
I've been here all week. Where have you been? My room's a little messier this time around, but to each his own.
Well, thank you very much for playing with us again. That's really cool. We will release you from this Zoom meeting after episode 10. Don't worry.
Oh, great.
No, okay, but this is episode 3.
Technically, it is episode 3, so we're almost halfway there.
Yeah, there was a little confusion among the Star Trek fans. They weren't sure. They said, "Is this episode 2 or 3?" And I said, "I believe that it's 3 because 1 and 2 were combined." Is that right?
It was a 2-parter, part 1 and 2. Yeah, for the pilot, it was just so epic. They had to combine it.
Yeah. So, Cirroc, This is it. This is the 4th piece of new Star Trek that we have now seen. This is technically the 3rd episode we've seen, and we're diving in. How are you?
I'm doing good. Actually, I had this. I went through this process already before when we were doing the first episode because it said 1 and 2, and I was thinking, did I miss 2? Because I only see 1. But so they did have them wrapped up together, and it was a 2-part in 1. So I kind of was prepared for that after the first one. But the first one, I was worried that I was missing something and I didn't have enough, that I didn't see both parts. But then as I saw that it was like a 44 minutes or 46 minutes as opposed to this one being like 24 minutes.
You missed a real opportunity here to really play with him, because you could have been like, now remember in episode 2 when Janeway, grabs, combines herself with a, replicator, and I don't know. You could have gone completely out of it.
I would never prank Cirroc. I wouldn't dare. Oh, no way.
Yeah, right. Sure.
No, in episode 2, when Rock Talk runs away with the Klingons, it's like, what?
You'd be like,
you missed that. You didn't catch that one?
I remembered it. No, I remember it.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I will say, shout out to our friend Don Crandall. He did say, he and I were talking about whether this was episode 2 or 3, and he did say that we should pretend like we're reviewing episode 2, and just say all kinds of cool and crazy things. But he was saying if there wasn't an episode that actually aired this week, because some people were afraid that there wouldn't be an episode that airs this week, and we could just pretend like we are reviewing it, and people would be scrambling and panicking, and they are. Real quick though, something that every once in a while we get fun autocorrects, right, Citrus? And
yes.
And when I put Pog in my notes, do you know what autocorrected? It autocorrected to Nog, which was really awesome. And and then just a couple minutes later, when I put in Rock, it autocorrected to Rom. So this thing knows me pretty well.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's obvious. It's like, no. You're obviously talking about the Ferengis. Obviously.
And if you put citrus, it'll come out Cirroc. So it's actually crazy. Yeah. So no, this episode was it's pretty good. We actually got some Janeway in it, which was like was a little bit of a letdown from the first episode because I thought she would be more heavily featured in it, and I think she only had one line at the very end of the first 2-part episode.
Did someone ask for help?
Yeah, that was the line. And so it was a little bit of a letdown because I was, kind of anticipating seeing more of her, but we got more of her in this episode. Well, more and then less and then more. It was, we don't want your help, Janeway. Okay, fine, we do want your help.
I think it was great too.
We got more of the ship's computer, by the way. We got that in spades.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a lot of Janeway. We got a lot of ship's computer. But sorry, Bonnie, before we cover that, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, with the whole Janeway thing, I feel like the whole first episode was introducing, or I guess 2 episodes, was introducing the core cast that knew nothing of Starfleet and almost like hinting of Janeway at the end of the episode. So I felt like moving on to episode 3, it was a perfect introduction of where the show is going. The first 2 episodes were like, here's all the exposition you need. Now it's time for exploration in space with the Starfleet vessel. And I felt like it was a great introduction to that. And now we're getting the full on, the Janeway experience, as I like to say. I feel like, I don't know. Now we're going into episode 3 and it feels like now we're in Star Trek. Not that it wasn't Star Trek before.
Right.
But I feel like
similar to,
this is what people were waiting for.
Right. Well, this is similar to Discovery's first 2 episodes in that they had the first 2 episodes were like an introduction into everything. Introduce the characters, set up the world, set up the universe, set up the story. And the 3rd episode was almost like its own pilot. It was almost like its own. Now that they're established on that ship, now that there's this going, this 3rd episode of Prodigy did the same thing in that we now see, okay, this is the formula going forward. They're going to discover something new, or there's going to be a new thing. The relationships are going to change and mold and adjust. And that's going to go on. But the individual stories are going to be theoretically discovering this thing and how to work together to get out of it, or discovering this planet, or it seems like they're just going to be out exploring and on a big giant adventure. And this 3rd episode was the first one that actually demonstrates what to expect, I think.
And them all trying to find their place on the ship too. I feel like you're seeing them starting to take stations on the bridge of, and almost taking roles as if they were Starfleet cadets.
And I love, Bonnie, you're doing a great job, by the way, of when I say these kind of things, of you going like,
I mean,
because you're not going to say, if I'm right,
I know
wrong,
nothing. I absolutely know nothing.
That's an interesting thought that you have there.
Ryan, very interesting. Yes, exploring space. I would not expect that from a Star Trek show. Interesting. Interesting thought process you have. I know nothing.
Jake Sisko's like, what's exploring space?
Yeah. I was stuck on that damn station all day. You got out a little bit. You went on like 2 away missions?
Yeah.
1 or 2?
Some adventures.
You got out.
I got out.
You know what? You know what? When it comes to Jake Sisko, you don't go out on the adventures. The adventures come to you. Am I right?
A+.
Yeah. You don't leave the space station. They come to you, sir. Yeah. That's how you tell them.
But that's one of the aspects, by the way, of the show that I think is interesting. I do think it's interesting, and there's a lot of room to explore the fact that this is a non-Starfleet, typical following the protocols of Star Trek, and these people are kind of a rogue group of prisoners, essentially. But there were a couple of things that were crossing my mind as I was watching the episode. And one of them is, for example, I was under the impression that all of the people who ended up at this colony are, working as these prisoners were people that were caught in the relative space area. So in that galaxy or whatever that quadrant is, that, they were probably apprehended by this mean bad guy that's the head of the show,
The
and the
diviner.
father,
The diviner.
Right. So I was under the impression, okay, so these people are all space travelers. And at some point or another, they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. They got snatched up by the diviner, and they end up on this prison colony. And then now we find this way to escape. But the thing that was a little bit gray area for me is when Dahl is talking about going on the adventure. Janeway is like, well, this is we have the Alpha Quadrant and the Gamma Quadrant, but this is the layout of all the stars, which I really enjoyed that kind of visual of the layout of the universe type thing. But it seemed as if he was ignorant of it. And his ignorance of it doesn't pretty much blend well for me with the idea that these people were all space people in general, like they were all space travelers at some point themselves.
Yep. Well, we don't really know much of any of their backstories. We don't know how, because they're all very young. So it could be that their idea of exploration could be very small if they were captured at such a young age. I mean, if you take Rock Talk, for example, when she's in the mess hall, with the food replicator, she doesn't know any other food besides what she was fed on the prison colony. So I don't know. I know we're not jumping into the episode, into the details yet, but
go for it.
Okay. But I mean, I loved that detail into her backstory, because it gives us a little insight of, oh, this is a character that knows nothing but mining, for the diviner. She's obviously, or if she knew anything before that, she was obviously too young to remember it. She obviously doesn't know anything before of what she's known on the mining planet. So I feel like that was a nice little hint to some of the backstories, and to possibly like giving us a glimpse into how some of these prisoners might have been there for so long, and for such a majority of their lives, they might not know much anything else.
That's what it seems like. And it did make me start thinking about this. Like, by the way, the diviner's first name is Inagata. So
Inagata Defeater. Sorry.
You got it. So
no.
Yeah, but it did get me thinking a bit about what their backstories are, because when Rock Talk didn't know anything else, I started thinking, oh yeah, why would we assume that they know anything? They might have been born there for all we know. Now, what Gwen said was that she assumed, or she thought, that they were all criminals, which I don't know if I buy that, because they're kids. They all seem to be kids, or maybe they are, what are they called? The unwanted, I think is
the unwanted.
They were referred to as. But then it got me thinking as to what the direction of this show, like how it would go. I was wondering, and I could be way off, and Bonnie, keep your poker face on.
I know nothing.
But it seems like a fun way to go would be if they either deliberately or accidentally start to stumble upon their homeworlds or their own stories, because we don't know any of their stories. Who knows if they know their stories? What if we see Rock Talk's people? Because the reason I was thinking that was the Tellarite is an Alpha Quadrant thing, is an Alpha Quadrant alien or Beta. I mean, but it's at least probably more 70,000 light years away. So how the hell did he get way over here? And so, yeah, it just kind of got me wondering if we're going to find out more of their individual stories. I sure hope so, because it seems like they all have very interesting stories to tell, presumably.
And especially since we don't even know what species Dal is, like, and of course you're looking at, Gwen and the diviner character, like this is the first time we're seeing aliens of these kind as well. So I think it's just so interesting that it's kind of what I love about Star Trek Prodigy is they took so much risk in creating new new stories, new species, new, and placing it in the Delta Quadrant, I think, is also extremely smart, because yes, we saw a bit of the Delta Quadrant with Voyager, but there's so much that we don't know about that quadrant, and there's so much yet to discover. So it was so smart of them to place it in an area of space that is still, partially unknown to Trekkies, to us, to the viewers.
We also don't know Murph or Rock Talk either. We don't know what that.
That's true.
We just know Cirroc. Did Murph puke on what was the situation there? Like, is that his way of showing
what's going on with Murph at this point? Murph doesn't say anything, just pops up and jumps on the console and knows how to operate stuff all of a sudden. So Murph is still a mystery to me.
The only thing we know is his first name is Eddie. But go on.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I can top that. I don't know if I can even go on anymore, Ryan, after that one. That might have been the last one. No. No, as what I was watching, and there was a lot of mystery here, and obviously there's so much to unfold. So we're still like just getting in the water. I don't know how deep it is yet, and so the mysteries that are being unfolded are pretty good. With Gwen's character, I feel like there's goodness in her.
Yeah,
but
for sure,
right?
Just her reaction with the Cation child. And making sure that the Cation wasn't, going, well, little good did that do, but just to make sure the Cation wasn't put into the mines, and keeping, the child with her kind of almost like in a protective way. You could just automatically see that she has goodness in her, and she, and how she reacted to the Kazon, saying, if you bring one to me this young again, I'll be putting you in the mines instead. Like, she obviously has a heart. It's just, it's a matter of, will she show it? Mm-hmm. Will she let her guard down?
And they kind of talked about it. They touched on it a little bit, because I really enjoyed the scene with Rock Talk. Rock Box is something
Pop
else.
Rocks.
The Rock Talk, Pop Rocks. When Rock Talk was having that moment where she was saying, well, how come, how come you didn't help us, right? She's like, she kind of confronts Gwen right there in a really heartbreaking type of serious way. And her defense was, well, I thought like you guys were criminals, or something to that effect, right? Like, I was told that you guys are criminals. So, and that allowed me to put this filter on and not see you in this kind of as much of a humane way as I should have, right? So I enjoyed that conversation. It was very, even for an animated show, I was like, it was an emotional scene. Those kinds of moments are emotional when you have to confront somebody and say, well, what was that all about? Like, why, why'd you leave me for dead? You literally left me for dead. And like, don't you have a heart, or don't you care about, whether people live or die?
It's all about,
I think,
I was going to say, it's all about that whole, phrase, don't judge a book by its cover type of thing, where like you can see the parallels of, I love that kids are seeing this at such a young age, because, growing up with, if you look at our past with, our history with racism and war and, everything from like the Holocaust, it's all about, oh, well, I was told that these people are bad. And it's like, that's not how it is, that's it. So it's that same kind of parallel. Like Gwen's like, oh, I was told this, and you're seeing a completely different side of, no, this is all wrong. And I just think, I love that they're writing stuff like this and doing it in such a subtle way that kids are going to be able to pick it up and, use it in life lessons later. I'm just so happy that the show exists.
Yeah, I think for my part, when I'm watching this, I think there's no doubt that, clearly Gwen is going to have her redemption. I don't think, I don't even know if it'll last an entire season. I mean, she's clearly going to be part of the crew and not, just a villain or a prisoner forever. She's going to prove her worth, but a lot of it is like you're saying, it's this misunderstanding. She was fed, lies.
Fake news.
Right. And they in turn thought ill of her.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually the more they communicate, the more they work together, the more things get revealed. At some point she's going to be, integral to
Mm-hmm.
defeating or getting away from her own father. I think that's what's going to slowly be set up, or, my only question is, and this is the real mystery to me, is when she does prove her worth and when they all realize, wait a second, you're not my enemy, this guy is, who's going to be the captain? Because they've already kind of planted that seed to where when she comes back, they might just be like, so if this is a vote, we might rather have her as our captain. I don't know what's going to happen there, but
she seems like more captain material. I think that Dow had his chance in this one, and he couldn't get anything right. He literally turned the shields off. That's like
yeah. There was a tweet earlier today, that I saw of someone reacting to the show saying, diverting all power to impulse engines. It's like, oh no, you think the ship would know not to do that. I'm like, but there's the real test. You should have said, dispense all non-essential power to, I was like, you gotta be more specific. Have you ever watched an episode of Star Trek? You gotta word it just right. If you'd have said non-essential power, that would have kept, life support up the brig, little things like that. But, obviously like the food replicators didn't need power at the time. The holodeck, if there was like some random, stowaway playing, badminton on the holodeck, obviously that would not be needed.
I played badminton early.
That was a deleted scene, I'm pretty sure. No. Going back to Murph really quick, you were talking about the happening. I would like to point this out. This is a Nickelodeon show, so technically Zero did get slimed, and I'm going to stick with that.
That's funny. I did think about
that is Nickelodeon canon. Yeah,
I do remember they like their slime.
You've been slimed.
Yeah. Sorry, Cirroc.
It's funny because I always wanted to be slimed as a kid. Yeah. Who never wanted to be slimed? But no, I think that the show definitely has like a whole bunch of, some things are predictable. Like obviously, like we said about Gwen's redemption, it's inevitable. It looks like she's going to have that conversation with her father, or that battle, or whatever it's going to be. We know that's the case. And it was funny because when they took off in search of, chasing down the ship, now he's like, we got to find the ship, and the whole thing kind of like gets up and moves.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is a pretty big, like, it looks like the Borg almost, like a whole community or something inside of the ship, right?
It's big. Do you remember this is a throwback to the 80s. Do you remember Spaceballs, where the opening scene with the ship, where it just kept going on and on and on and on? Yeah. That's kind of what it felt like to me. Like, it's so big and it's so massive. It's like, this is an entire like planet on a spaceship, it feels like. That's what it feels like to me. Yeah. Obviously the mining colony, or the mining planet, was, I think it was some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, yes, Tim Russ.
You mean Tim Russ? Tim Russ's movie Spaceballs.
That's right. Comb the desert, Tim.
I didn't realize he was in there.
Yeah, he's the guy.
I should say
found shit.
Yeah, I should do like the Tuvok, comb the desert. Yeah. Have you found anything, Tuvok? Oh my gosh. No.
You were talking about how big the ship is, like, right?
Well, the ship is huge. The mining planet, I think, went it went invisible. So it has some kind of cloaking device over it so no one can find it. But then I think I could be wrong, but it looked like the ship detached itself, like and it, like half of the planet detached itself from the other half and went off in search. But it was massive. Yeah.
It looked like it was a similar technology, and kudos to Star Trek for doing these kinds of things in which they create an entire culture and a type and a color scheme and whatever to an alien race or to this group or to that group. And so we know that this alien race of the Diviner and Gwen, they have these metals that can kind of morph, that can kind of change, like when the Diviner's talking and he's got all that stuff kind of open and floating around. And then when he's done, it closes. Gwen's got the armband thing that turns into a really cool weapon. The ship seems to be in that same vein, to where the ship was morphing. It was made up of this malleable type metallic, whatever it might be. And so that was very reminiscent of what we've already seen from that race. So that's always really cool, is when they create like a genre of technology that this particular race has. And they like their reds and their golds and their blacks, and that's kind of the color scheme that's in with them. And then the morphing metal. And then they showed the interior of that ship for just a second. The nerd in me wants to see more of that, when he just kind of said, Chimerium cloak activated. I am coming for you, my progeny, or something like that. I also want to know more about this Chimerium, because that seems to be like the thing of that part of the quadrant, the thing that they've mentioned it a few times. That's also what they're mining. They don't call it mining, they call it extracting the unwanted, or extracting it. But hopefully we'll find out a little bit more about that and what makes it so important and valuable. And they're, I don't think they'll leave any stones unturned. Star Trek's usually pretty good about really thinking things through and giving us a little bit and a little bit and a little bit to enjoy.
I love your background, by the way. That's the scene that I was so excited to see actually made.
Oh, really?
Going in and doing Scratch, as Janeway, and as she has that big speech explaining Starfleet and the Federation, it would give me goosebumps. And just to see it happen, like to finally see it made, and the animation was so beautiful, and like it was so, just to see the reactions of the characters to it too, of discovering it for the first time. I was happy.
Well, these are like the founding members of the Federation. You've got the Tellarite, you've got the Andorian, you've got the human. There's also the Vulcans. According to Enterprise, those are the 4, but according to the books that I read before Enterprise, there were actually 5. The 5th were like the Centaurians or something, which was like a secondary human offshoot race. Right now, Cirroc's like, you freaking nerd. But yeah, so basically, that's what was floating around, was the founding members.
Right. And they used outlines from the animated series, which I thought was really cool. Like,
oh, I missed that.
There was of Spock, of the Vulcan Spock, and of
Wow, that's a great Easter egg that I completely missed.
I think I saw it tweeted. I'll try and find it for you. But I caught it too, and I was like, whoa! And then I think it was of Spock and an Andorian. It was like, it's like the founding members, talking about the founding members.
Yeah.
And it was from the animated series.
Yeah, now I'm looking too.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what you just brought up, Ani, which was the monologue, essentially, that Janeway or Kate Mulgrew gives when she explains what the United Federation of Planets means and what Starfleet means to it.
Right.
And I wrote it down too, because it seemed like one of those special moments where something that we always kind of assume and take for granted, like that we know already, because it's like, oh yeah, I already know that, but it's never really spoken. And when she put words to it and kind of summarized what all of this is all about, I thought that was a nice moment. She said, United Federation of Planets is a interstellar union of different worlds and species. And then she talks about shared principles of universal liberty, rights, and equality. So I was thinking, I was like, how basic is it that, these things that we're all looking for in life, right? We're basically looking for liberty, rights, and equality, right? It's like it boils down to something that small. And then when she outlined Starfleet, she talks about the mission to maintain peace and freedom. I'm like, wow, there's another thing, like this universal peace and freedom that should, that we all value. Exploring strange new worlds. I thought that was a little plug for the new strange new worlds that they're working on. So,
well, they did also.
They always say that, though.
Yeah, but I will say there was something I noticed:
new worlds and seek out civilizations,
new life and new civilizations. And I was sad. I said, why did they take out the new life part? I was like, did they just?
They did take off new life. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what's wrong with new life? All new life's been with us for 55 years, and now they don't want it anymore.
It's implied. It's implied.
They're like, Ryan, it's a kid's show. We got to simplify.
Murph was there. They discovered it. It's all good.
Yeah, Murph is new life.
Yeah,
we've got a whole bunch of new life on this show. This is a bunch of characters that are new life.
Definitely implied. Yeah.
But no, I did like that speech, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, because when you summarize it, it comes down to peace, freedom, liberty, rights, equality. It's like, the same things that everybody's fighting for nowadays. So it's not going anywhere.
Nothing's changed. Same goals.
These topics are not going anywhere.
Yeah, these
are the same thing they were fighting for, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Hey, I want my liberty.
Exactly. And imagine like watching, characters, the characters hearing all of this for the first time, like, seeing Rock Talk's expression and like you can just tell this is like she's all in. She's like, oh yeah, this sounds great. And
I'll have some of that.
Exactly. I'll take 2 federations with a side of fries, please. And extra crispy from the replicator. But no, I feel like this is the first time any of these characters are hearing any of these words used in their lifetime, where if they're spending their entire life mining away or extracting away on this planet, the words, freedom, liberty, those are all just dreams to them. Equality, this is, think of all the years that they've spent doing this where they haven't been able to communicate with any of their fellow prisoners and have any type of communication whatsoever. No connections with anyone. So I feel like it makes it all that much more special when Janeway does this big speech, because it's like, it's eye-opening to them. It's like, whoa, this exists? There's a place like this?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Rock Talk's reaction to it, which was great. I noticed in this episode what you had mentioned before, Bonnie, that the little girl that plays Rock Talk is very good. Mm-hmm. And not just in her lines, not just like in the lines that she says, but every once in a while they have lines that aren't actually words, just like a grunt
reaction or
or whatever. And I was like, wow, she's doing that so well. I mean, what is she, like 9, 12, 10?
I think she's 10 or 11. I don't want to, I don't want her to come after me and be like, I'm 29. Yeah. No, she's not.
But it's so hard to get a child to basically say, you have to say, like, imagine that you're getting dragged away, or delivering lines is one thing, but actual like grunts and noises and things like that, and delivering those well, that's surprising that she can grasp those and portray them so well. It did jump out at me. I don't remember what the scene was, maybe during the fighting or when she was getting I think it was when the gravity, your line, of course, where the gravity was
disengaging artificial gravity.
There it is. That's when the grunting was happening. It was perfect. Yeah. And your lines were also great, by the way, Bonnie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's funny because, we recorded these so long ago, and watching this episode back for the first time, I forgot how much I I recorded for this episode. And I was kind of like, oh, well, because, all my friends, and a lot of my friends were so excited for the show and they all tuned into the first episode and they're like, we heard your line. And, after seeing this one, I was just like, oh, they're going to hear me a lot now. They're going to be like, okay, Bonnie, that's enough. You can stop counting down now. It's fine, But it was so much fun to hear my voice, come to life. Of course, I was just like sitting back there going, oh, I would have done that differently. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, maybe I should have said this differently, in my head. But the whole time I'm just like, I'm literally just counting down a shot. Like, get out of your head, Bonnie. It's fine. There's a fight happening. You're fine. No one's paying attention. But yeah, it was so great. Going back to that fight scene where the shuttlecraft is being constructed around them. I come from a background via voiceover with video games. So most of my voiceover experience is efforts and fighting and getting hit and, a lot of, a lot of those like reaction type shots. And I thought they did such a great job with the fight, with the punches and the hits and the reactions. I was like, all right, girls, you got this. But yeah, that's again complimenting Riley, our little rock talk, and Ella.
Pretty cool
Ella
what you did though
Purnell.
too. Let's not miss that. Those little reactions you just made were pretty cool. I can picture
thank you.
Like a Street Fighter game with the punches and the kicks or whatever when you did that.
Well, that's I'm the voice of Rainbow Mika in Street Fighter, so you're not too far off.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
So that voice is a lot different than what I usually do. So it's pretty rough. So it's a lot of muscle spirit. Come on. It's very rough and gruff. And people hear me talk in real life, that are fans of the game, and they go, "Oh, you don't sound like her in real life." I'm like, thank God. If I go to the store, it's like, "Oh, I want some milk." Like, who talks like that? Yeah. So. Basically, I just would sound angry all the time, but it's a lot of ha and getting punched and dying. That's pretty much my day-to-day job. Just typical Tuesday. It's either pain or constipation. That's what you have to internalize when you're like,
I enjoyed your voiceover work in this episode.
Thank you.
There was a lot of comedy to almost the way you were delivering the lines, in my opinion, or maybe the way they placed the lines, but ejecting escape pod 1, ejecting escape pod 2, and then then she's like, please tell me there's
more. There are no more escape pods on board. It's like, oh no. Yeah. It actually I got a laugh out of that. That's actually pretty, it's a pretty and it's so simple. Like, it's not even supposed to be a pure comedy moment, but just like timing it out, like, please tell me there's more. There are no more. I just find it.
Timing of that.
It was a great little button, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And then, first of all, how cool that this ship has a vehicle replicator. Like, what?
Yeah, everybody should have one of those.
What? My goodness. I mean, 3D printer times 10. That's incredible,
Mm-hmm.
Replicator's one thing, but build me a shuttlecraft and now we're talking. So that's just one more, I think, mystery of the protostar. The ship is something completely new for everyone, and the fact that it has something this advanced, and you can just tell it has 2 warp cores and a vehicle replicator. There's something that's very mysterious about this ship that you're just like, my God, it has everything.
Thing. Well, the ship is kind of like the 7th character in that crew. Mm-hmm. I guess Janeway as well, but we're theoretically, I'm assuming, going to find out the mystery behind the ship as well, because like, what the heck is the ship doing way out there? Maybe it was a ship that was sent out to find Voyager, When Voyager got stuck there, maybe they sent a ship out to find her, and then the crew got killed and it was left over at something. But clearly we're going to hopefully know more about that ship. I know I would. I know all the nerds want to know, what the heck is the ship doing there? That's our big connection to Star Trek, is that ship. That's the connection to the Federation. Janeway also had a great line that I thought was funny when Jenkum Pog was like, oh, you mean I get to shoot the asteroids? And she says, technically it's auto targeting, but you get to push the button. Right. Yeah. Great. Very well delivered. That was also clearly, you know, grasping that this is supposed to be a comedic moment, because she wasn't just saying like, oh, but you get to push the button. She was like encouraging him, but you get to push the button. So it's still a good, fun thing for you. I thought that was great.
I love the humor in this. I feel like, you know, they've really did a great job on mixing the action with the humor, with the heart. I feel like, you know, because you do have to you have to have some humor in it. You have to have some, you know, physical humor too, especially for the kids to keep their attention. But the fact that it is such good storytelling on top of adding humor for the adults as well, I think it's just smart writing. Again, I'll keep praising the writers for every episode, because, you know, I get really excited whenever you know, seeing the script come to life of what they've written down. It, like, they're so talented.
You know, also, actually, the ship, I'm assuming they're going to stay on the ship for however many seasons there are, which means you get to come back for the second season.
Well, I sure hope they keep. I hope they keep me around.
I mean, that's not you know, that's not a one season kind of thing. It seems
they get like a new. It's like one of those downloads for like you know, Waze or Google, where I could just be like, oh, I want the voice of Bert and Ernie on this one. You know, like, it's like, no, wait.
Wait, no.
Don't do it. It's like, oh, I prefer. You know what? Yeah, I prefer a computer with a German accent. We're just gonna switch that up. I'm like, oh, well, I get it. I think my Google Voice. I mean, my Google Voice has an Australian accent, so I can't judge my Siri.
I've got
or
South
whatever.
African. I chose a South African guy.
Oh, maybe that's. I think maybe that's one mine. That might be mine.
You were saying Cirroc.
Really? They made a really quick kind of brush over, but I'm sure it's something that's going to be brought up later on. It was the moment when they said that they had 2 warp cores inside of the engine room. And then they said, but what's this little thing right here? And they were alluding to something that's we've never seen anywhere else. And the engineer was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know what it is. So
and then I interrupted the moment. So sorry about that. Red alert.
Yeah.
Red alert.
Yeah. So I'm assuming there's something big there that they're going to touch upon in the next couple episodes.
Yeah. And that's a great point. I had forgotten about that. And that is something more mystery. I mean, that's what this show is. It's setting up adventure and mystery, right? The adventure is just going to keep going. The mysteries are going to be solved bit by bit, and then new mysteries are going to come up, I'm assuming. But they've definitely set up a show that looks like it's going to go in that direction. We only have a few minutes left, but I did put in capital letters the red alert, because you did. That was very fun. When we heard that, I was like, oh, that's a very good red alert voice. Good work.
Thank you. And yeah, it's not too you know, panicked, you know. It's like, hey guys, red alert, you know. You know, you don't want to panic the ship. You don't want to be like, it was red alert. Yeah.
Red alert.
Everybody gonna die.
Red alert. It's kind of like, excuse me, pardon for the interruption, but you are about to fly into a red dwarf. Red alert. Red dwarf alert.
Yeah, that was. You know, I wanted to say this on the first episode. They did it again on this next third episode. But when they showed the shields for the ship, they had it designed in this like honeycomb, like connected way. And that was the first time I'd ever seen the shields represented in that way. Ryan, maybe you can help me with it. Is that the first time we've seen the ship shields constructed with this honeycomb pattern? Okay.
So I did notice that too. It looked familiar, but I don't think we've seen it in Star Trek. I don't know if I've just seen it elsewhere or if there was some other kind of technology that was similar to that, because I thought about that too. I mean, what we've ever seen that I can remember is just a clear bubble, you know, basically.
Right.
None of this extra honeycomb layer. So I don't know if that's something new that we're going to be told, or if it's just a more advanced piece of technology, or maybe if it's connected in some way to that thing in engineering. I wonder if that thing in engineering is a spore drive. How crazy would that be? How, like, like what if it's like there's a connection to Discovery where it's like a spore drive, or I mean, clearly it's gonna be some kind of technology where, a spore drive, a cloaking device, something that's gonna give them, 6 kids an advantage,
an edge of surviving. Yeah,
they're gonna need one. There's 6 freaking kids. They're gonna need something to, that puts them ahead of the game, when all these bad guys are coming to get them, or when they get sucked into, a red dwarf star or something like that.
Typical Tuesday. Or I guess I should say Thursday. Typical Thursday.
Yeah.
Typical Thursday.
Those red dwarfs. I'm up to here with red dwarfs.
Have you ever seen Red Dwarf,
can you
by the way?
No.
Red Dwarf, the TV show, that British.
Oh, Red Dwarf, the show. I thought you were asking me in person if I've ever seen a red dwarf. I'm like, no, Ryan, I don't go to space. Like, I like maybe in a picture of one. Like, is there? Are they aplenty out there? I have seen the show Red Dwarf. In fact, and one of the songs that my comedy band does, the Library Bards, we do all about that bass, but it's all about that space, of course. But we mention every sci-fi show, including Red Dwarf and Lex and
Lex. Wow, that's
awesome. Yeah, we cut deep. We cut deep. So we try and mention every little nugget.
Cirroc, I'm not going to ask you if you've seen Red Dwarf, because the look on your face when I mentioned it told me that you haven't. So, I've only seen one episode, and I was like, but I know it's got a cult following.
I haven't seen all of it. I've seen quite a bit. I own it, if that helps. I also own Lex. I need to actually watch them fully through. But from what I've seen, I can see why it has a cult following. It's a very different type of sci-fi show, but it has its merits. It all has a place in the sci-fi's heart.
No, I never seen Red Dwarf. I've seen Red October.
Okay.
And Red Dawn. I think it was Red Dawn. But no. I was going to say that I did like the line when what's the Tellarite's name? The character?
Jankum Pog.
Jankum Pog. Yeah. I like when he says, "Ask Janeway to turn on the air condition unless you want roasted Pog." I like that line right there. It was kind of had me laughing a little bit. And the other line that had me rolling was when Dal says, the little psychic robot thing was
Zero.
Zero came up with an idea, and Dal was like, "You were reading my mind." Like, and he's like, "No, that's a lie.
That's a lie. Yep.
Not true.
You are not thinking that. I came up with that on my own."
There was one line that Jankum Pog said also that I thought was delivered very well. Sometimes there's just like a certain way that they deliver it where you're like, oh, wow, you just doubled the impact of that line for me. And that was when, in my notes it says Nog, but I meant to say Pog. He says when Dal tells him to push buttons or whatever, and Pog says, "Okay, doing what you told me to do," kind of like, kind of like,
like I don't know about this.
Yeah, like, okay, so you realize you just told me to do that, but the way he delivered that added that extra layer of I'm not exactly pleased with you telling me what to do, and I'm letting you know, but I'll do it.
And also might not be the best idea because we don't really know what we're doing. Yeah.
It's on you if it sucks.
This is on you. I think my all-time favorite is when he finally asks Janeway for help, and she gets you know how to keep a lady waiting, like that whole beat with her coffee, and she just takes her time and all right. Yeah. It's like, let me have my morning coffee first and let's get to work. It was just perfect. Yeah.
And
all you had to do was ask. Oh, we lost him. Oh, gosh.
No, Bonnie, one of the funny things we were talking about was the hologram coffee,
Yeah.
a hologram drinking coffee. It was like, you know, it was pretty. I was waiting for her to light up a cigarette and say, "Get 5 minutes." And I'll do that.
Can you imagine the people programming that? They're like, how do we make it more lifelike? I don't know. Give her a little sass and a coffee mug. That'll do it.
Well, you know, obviously it's based off of Captain Janeway. Hologram. Same thing with like the Doctor being based off of the man who created him. The Doctor who created him as a hologram. So I feel like, you know, with the Doctor, we just touched the surface of what holograms based on real people can actually do. And it was also touched in Next Generation with Geordie LaForge. You know, he fell in love with a hologram. Awkward, but I know. Geordie LaForge can never catch a break when it comes to his love life. But but you know, it just goes to show how lifelike they really are. And if they're based on a real person, they actually, you know, they exude some of those personality traits and whatnot. So it just shows that whoever designed the protostar and designed hologram Janeway put in the obvious attention to detail when it came to the coffee, because I thought that was perfect.
Same mug as always too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just about out of time, but do we have any final thoughts on this episode, Cirroc? Anything that we missed? I feel like I threw out everything that jumped out at me. I thought it was overall, it's a very easy watch, like Lower Decks is, in that it's over and you're like, oh, that was quick. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of
you want more.
Flies by. Yeah, flies by. I mean, the first 2 episodes were combined into about 45 minutes, but from here on out, it's just going to be the regular half hours. It's going to be quick and, you know, easy to watch. It flies right through. It's got, you know, one through line that we get. I think it's easy. I think it's great and it's fun to follow along.
Yeah.
I'm just left disappointed because we didn't really get the answer to the question of why her forehead was so smooth. And
she's human. She's human and she likes to exfoliate.
And you're no, what her answer was, you're no peach, tell her right.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Find out.
You're no peach either, tell you right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good comeback.
Love it.
Any final thoughts from you, Bonnie, before we leave you in the Zoom room?
Oh no! Until next week, everyone. No, I'm just so, you know, as someone who knows a glimpse of what's to come, I'm just so excited that people are enjoying it. And all I have to say is just keep watching. It's just such a special show. It's really special. And I think this episode gave us like a taste of what's to come, of like, really, we're going to get to really know the characters and, you know, their differences and their personalities. And we're going to get more Janeway, because I think that's what everyone wanted in the first. I think that's everyone's only complaint for the pilot was more Janeway. And now I think this gave them the Janeway dose they needed. And the caffeine dose they needed.
And the ship's computer that we needed.
Thank you. I agree. Yeah. I was like, oh, look at me talking. Oh, yes. Ejecting.
I'm going to say I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to play out. One of the things that they left me on a positive note and left me kind of hungry to see where we're going was when they said, hey, she basically compliments them and says, hey, you guys are good cadets after all, or something to that effect. Yeah. She gives them like some encouragement, right?
Little attaboy.
At the very end, you know, the whole speech that she gives is how when the Federation first started, how everyone was coming from different worlds, different cultures, different ways of life, and they all found common ground to work together because their ultimate goal was to, you know, explore and to find peace and find new life and be better, basically. And that's basically what she's telling them is, you know, I've seen my fair share of, you know, wayward crews, and basically giving them that kernel of hope that they need. Like, actually, there's hope for us. Like, we got this. You know, we just have to work together. It's all about working together in Starfleet. Yeah.
And that hope is then transferred on to me as the viewer. So the same role, the encouragement that she's giving them, like, I think you guys can make it, and you're going to make it after all, you're a good crew of cadets, is giving me kind of hope too, as I'm watching going forward, saying, okay, these guys are signing up for an adventure. They're admitting that they have a lot to learn, and they're willing to learn, which is the best kind of student. And so we're going, like, signing me up for an adventure, and I'm willing to see how these characters are going to progress, how they're going to learn, because they're young. There's so much growth there. So I'm looking forward to seeing which direction they choose to go in with all of the character development and Gwen's storyline and all the storylines, how they're going to play out.
Yeah, and by the way, Bonnie, thank you so much for joining us again. That was really cool.
Thank
Can you
you.
tell everybody where they can find you online? Your Twitter handle, it's like Bonnie Bell G, was it?
You got it. Yeah, at Bonnie Bell G. That's everywhere. Twitter, Instagram. Just search my name. You'll find me. I'm pretty easy to find. Check out my comedy nerd band, The Library Bards, at Library Bards. And if you're in Vegas, I will be performing in Vegas November 6th, which is this upcoming Saturday, at the 13th Annual Comic Book Festival at the Clark County Library. I'll be doing a voiceover panel as well as a solo concert with songs from my band as well as some solo stuff, because I have a Kickstarter launching next week for my solo album.
Ooh,
so
check that
shameless
out.
plugs all around. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
So everybody be sure to follow Bonnie on Twitter so that when her Kickstarter launches and when she has her live shows and things like that, you know exactly where to go to check it out.
Come find me. Give me hugs 6 feet apart.
Anyway, but thank you very much, Bonnie. That's really cool that you would join us a second time. We really appreciate it. And Cirroc and I will look forward to 7 more episodes of this. Is this 10 episodes? Can you confirm that? Okay.
I believe so. Yes. According to IMDb. So I'm not giving anything away.
It's
allegedly, supposedly.
Yeah,
allegedly, there's 8 to 10, 9.
Well, that's where the confusion comes from. There's a lot of, IMDb, I don't always know it's honestly, a work in progress.
I believe it's 10 episodes. I think that's what most articles and whatnot have said as well. But because the first 2 were together, I believe I believe that it
could be 9.
9.
It could be 10.
Right. 8.
That's what it exactly. That's what it looks. That's what everything seems to be showing is 1 and 2 are together, but it's going to be 10 in total as long as you consider this first part as the 2 episodes, and then 2 episodes. There'll be 7 more. Anyway, thank you all for joining us at home. Be sure to comment below. Tell us what you think of the 3rd episode. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe, for goodness sake.
And tell us who your favorite characters are so far. I want to know who people's favorite characters, who they identify with.
Absolutely.
Murph, I can tell you right now, the internet loves Murph.
And if you're listening in, give us 5 stars and definitely tell us who your favorite character is. And go ahead and give your comments on Bonnie. Tell her how great she is. And there it is. You're like,
or not. If you don't like me, you don't have to say anything,
Anyway. So thank you all very much for joining us. We'll see you soon. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.